it is me, Real American Politics, back in with a new video, and today we have a new poll watch video. That's right, folks, back to the most popular series currently on this channel, Poll Watch, and today we're finally going to the great state of New Hampshire. The first time we're making a full poll watch video dedicated to the state of New Hampshire. Now, before I forget, of course, I hope you enjoy these type of videos. If you do, smash a like button down below, subscribe, share it to friends, hit the little bell, and yes, of course, go follow that mysterious Twitter account in the description down below. And, yeah, also join the channel. That is right, folks, for just 10 cents a day, you can join Real American Politics. I recommend you do it as it helps support daily content. We all love daily content, don't we, folks? Alright, enough promotion stuff, let's get into it. So, Emerson had just come out with a new poll from the great state of New Hampshire. Now, at first glance, this is terrible news for Don Bolduc. Senator Hassan has a 11-point lead over Don Bolduc, according to the top line of the Emerson poll. And when you dig into the poll, you really start to realize there's some questionable things about this poll. So let's get into it. So, you could read all this here, but in a nutshell, they're saying, Hassan's winning independent voters by 12, which in the state of New Hampshire, independent voters, they're everything. This is a fairly independent-minded state, and they're important. Now, here's the thing, though, I have an immediate concern with this poll before even looking at the crosstabs. This one right here. They only have Chris Sununu up by only 15 points. The last couple elections, he won by 20 to 30 points. So you're saying in a red wave, when Chris Sununu is still very popular, he's not going to win by, as much as he usually does. He's going to magically only win by 15 points. You see the problem immediately with the top line, but we'll get to the rest of the garbage, what's really wrong with this poll, in a few seconds. So let's get into it. Let's look at this report from here. Alright, so let's start. The general election, the Senate ballot, New Hampshire. Of course, the top line has Hassan up by 11 points. And you look at the independent vote, same thing, 12 points. Men, Bolduc's losing that. That's kind of a shocker, honestly. Now, for women, of course, they're breaking for Hassan by a lot. Now, this is where I started to realize something's wrong with this poll. They have Don Bolduc losing the white vote by 19. 19. Now, I know the white vote in New Hampshire is not as conservative as the rest of the country. They're not, as conservative as those like in Wisconsin, for example. But even then, Trump, I still think, carried them or lost them like a fairly close margin. I could be off about that. But they have Don Bolduc losing the white vote by 19. So the question is this. How do they get Hassan up by only 11? You'll see in a little bit. You'll realize, okay, this poll has some significant problems. So, yeah, that's that. Now, for the congressional races, these are races I don't really care about discussing today. You can look at the top lines yourselves. But Republicans look decent in the 1st district. As for the 2nd district, well, it's fairly lopsided. But Burns, I do know he's still fairly unknown in the 2nd district. He kind of won an upset. But there is a chance for the Republicans to win the 1st district. It's just one of those things so I really don't want to discuss today because, well, it's the 1st district. Alright, so here is the rest of the poll. This is a gubernatorial race, and this is where you start to realize this is the problem with this poll. Alright, they have independents going to Sununu by 19, only winning by 15, huh? But then you look at this. This has been my one gripe with Emerson polls this cycle. They've not been polling somewhat likely voters. You know what I mean? These are voters that, while on record, they don't have that much of a voting history. they're more than likely going to vote. Emerson has been screening them out constantly, and they finally started to include them in some polls. And look at this. Somewhat likely voters break for Sununu by 81 points. Now, I know this is a small sample size, absolutely, but that's the problem with Emerson, all right? They've been ignoring this somewhat likely vote. You know, these voters that are not going to vote 100% of the time, but they're more than likely going to vote this cycle. Yet, Emerson still missed a huge chunk of that vote. We'll get to that in a little bit. Now, for the most important issue, New Hampshire, 43% said the economy, education 3%, healthcare 6%, abortion access 20%. And you look at the crosstabs, once again, it's like 95% Democrat. Immigration is 6%, so most of the important issues are Republican winning. The economy, immigration, healthcare. Abortion access, that's misleading. The only people that care about abortion right now is, you know, those Democrats that they had an excuse, right? They wanted an excuse not to admit the economy was bad. So they're going to say, you know, we have to focus on abortion. That's the main issue, not the economy. So that's that for that. Candidate favorability rating, Biden's approval rating, net -9 in the state. Ugh. And there's a lot of undecideds, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Now, this is the weird one. Does the FBI search on Mar-a-Lago make you more or less likely to support Donald Trump if he runs for re-election? Or I should say run for election again. And this is the only state so far that Emerson has polled that more people said less likely than more likely to support Donald Trump after the Mar-a-Lago stuff. That's interesting, all right? Of all the states, New Hampshire was the first one to buck the trend. Now, even men voters are doing the same thing. Women, independents. Yeah, it's weird. So yeah, most important issue, we saw this already. Then the crosstabs. Alright, sorry about that, folks. I had to, reload the page. The thing kind of broke. I don't know what happened, but we got the crosstabs here. And this is where you notice there's a major problem with this poll immediately. So let's go down to, how likely are you to vote? Alright, that's the top line right here. Only 5% of this sample is somewhat likely. So, they finally added, somewhat likely voters. But only 5%? I mean, come on. Yes, they're not going to be, 100% or 50 or even 30%, but they're going to be 20% of the electorate that, they're going to vote. They're just not as likely as these voters. And you start to immediately realize there's I would say a hidden voter, I should say a shy voter bias, like usual. You scroll down here, and you go here. Where is it? Somewhat likely. They disapprove the job Joe Biden is doing as president by over 43 points, while very likely voters, 7 points. You understand the issue. The somewhat likely voters are more of those voters that they don't like to talk to pollsters. They're not really, they're not a guarantee they're going to vote. But more than likely, these voters are going to come out in droves. And you look here, Bolduc is winning these somewhat likely voters. This is what I really do think is going to happen in New Hampshire. It's going to be close. The issue with Bolduc is, of course, the primary just happened. So he's got to somehow pick off a lot of these, undecided, somewhat likely voters. He has to find a way to get these voters out. That's the only path for Bolduc to really get the win, all right? If he gets these undecided voters out, there's a serious shot he's going to be the next senator of the great state of New Hampshire. But that's not the funniest part about this poll. Emerson, I have a question about your crosstabs. I know these crosstabs, they can be wonky sometimes, but Bolduc is winning the Hispanic vote by 65 points. The white vote, he's losing by 19. But here's the kicker, the black vote. Bolduc's winning by 12. Emerson! What? You guys see the main problem with this poll? They had some wonky crosstabs in this poll, which leads me to believe that they're truly undersampling this somewhat likely vote. There's this white working class voter in New Hampshire. They just didn't poll correctly, all right, because they were not 100% likely to vote. That's my theory with this poll, because if I know this is New Hampshire and these vote blocks are not that big, but if Hispanics are voting 60 points Republican in New Hampshire, blacks are voting Republican, white voters will be voting Republican. That's just a guarantee. So that's the problem with this poll, but even then, when you look at the crosstabs, there is a hidden vote here, all right? Based on the somewhat likely vote, even the congressional races, the Republicans are winning this somewhat likely vote by a lot. This is the key, and that is why I still think this race is going to be competitive as hell. Anyways, folks, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit the little bell, and yes, of course, go follow the mysterious Twitter account in the description down below. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video. Godspeed to all of you.